Hi, can you hear me properly? Can you see me clearly? Can I just get a confirmation on that? Good evening. Good evening. I hope you are able to hear me clearly. Hello, Sharnalidi. Hi, Sumi. Okay, so let's just give it another minute for everybody to assemble. Wonderful, clear and crisp. I see 27 people have joined so far. Yeah, yes, we'll beat. Hi, Shovik. How's the weather in Kolkata, by the way? It's gotten very cold here in Bangalore in the last few days. I'll just be back. Just give me a second. Oh, it's raining here as well in Bangalore. Okay. So I've just got the cue to start the session. So I think 29 people have joined so far. So thank you, friends, for taking the time off to attend this FB live session with me. Thank you to the admin team specifically, Dipalika Banerjee, Sharnali Chattopadhyay, and Joyanto Sen for organizing this session and giving me this opportunity to speak in this forum. I've been a member of PKG group for the Facebook group for I think the last 3 years or so, and whenever I visit this page, I'm on the lookout for these spectacular images of old Kolkata buildings. They evoke some old memories, and it is. I also these images resonate with me as well, because I used to stay in a very old building in Calcutta, in the heart of Kolkata, and it is also testimony to the fact, it testifies the fact that our beloved city is so photogenic, and a photographer need not try so hard, to get a good frame going. And that's what I really love about Kolkata, and which is the reason why so many filmmakers schedule their shooting there in Kolkata, right? Let me just take a minute or two to just introduce myself, so that you have a perspective into what this talk is going to be and about my background as well. So my name is Siddhartha Krishnan, and I am an author and blogger currently staying in Bangalore. And I came to Bangalore 14 years back in the year 2006 with the same aspirations as anyone who would come to the IT capital, and that is to secure a cushy corporate job. But I always had a deep yearning to do something creative, and that I decided to realize through short story writing, and I started blogging as well. So the fruition of which is my book, which is a collection of short stories which I managed to publish. But much of what I am today is because of my experiences in the city of Kolkata, the 22 years that I had spent in Kolkata, growing up as a little Malayalee boy. And I've often wondered why, despite being away from Kolkata for so long, part of Kolkata has always stayed with me. Despite me not being a Bengali, why Kolkata has, always been an intrinsic part of me. And so what I'll be doing in this session is to basically pull out little anecdotes and stories from my past. Okay, and I will be telling these to you in the form of little stories. Okay, and I intend it to be a little laid back, slow, although this session is not going to drag for too long. Okay, so if someone were to ask me, what does Kolkata mean to you, right? And my answer to them would be that Kolkata is 7A Gokhale Road for me. And the reason for that is that, most of my experiences have been from there. However, they say that nostalgia is a dirty liar, because it insists things were better than they seemed. And this is true, because we humans are often guilty of recollecting our past with such fondness, and but while experiencing it, we are usually cribbing about it. And this is true in my case as well, because I used to stay in a building which was, as I said, it is a 100-year-old building, and so with it came its challenges, right? So space constraints, and it was a small 2-room apartment, so space constraints, water supply issues, and maintenance issues. So, and every now and then, whenever it used to rain in Kolkata in those days, it used to get flooded with knee-deep water. So we were always cribbing about our circumstances. But now, when I recollect my, those days, I do so with such fondness, and I'm often guilty of, when I meet my old friends, I'm often guilty of saying, সেই এক সময় ছিল এখন আর কি, that. So those were the days. And what's more, my younger brother, who's now staying in Rajarhat, right, with in an apartment with all the creature comforts, that doesn't feel like Kolkata to me anymore, right? That, my friend, friends, it feels like Bangalore, right? And mundane, boring, and lacking the cultural heritage, so to say. And how strange is that, right? Well, I guess this thinking is intrinsic to our human nature. Now, let me, I just saw a question, which locality, right? Now, let me just take you through this location, right? So, 7A Gokhale Road, and I'm sure many of you know this place. Gokhale Road is this quite little street in between Shambhunath Pandit Street and AGC Bose Road. So, at one end of the street you had the Gol Mandir, and at the other end you had Calcutta Club, right? And on this road we had the Institute of Engineers, the Army's recruitment center, right? And in the vicinity you had all the iconic cultural landmarks of the city, which included the likes of Victoria Memorial, Nandan Cinema, Rabindra Sadan, and Netaji Bhavan, Calcutta Maidan, right? And at the other end we had on Shambhunath Pandit Street we had the Gurudwara and the famous eateries, right? Balwant Singh Dhaba, famous for its Doodh Cola, and then just across the street, you know, you had the Sharma tea stall, famous for its heritage tea and those small kachoris and jalebis that they used to serve, you know. And God, I miss those days. And I'm salivating as I'm speaking, remembering all these delicacies. And so this gave my father the excuse to never leave 7A Gokhale Road. And we've always clung on to this place, because he used to say that when the rest of the people in the city are thronging and are wanting to come here, why should we leave this place, right? And our building was in the middle of Gokhale Road, and the name of our building is Krishna Priya Mansions, but the name on its facade has all but, you know, withered away over the years. I remember during a hartal some 20-25 years back in the mid 90s, we were playing cricket on the street, and one guy, he hit the ball towards the facade, and that's when I first noticed Krishna Priya Mansion written on the facade of a building. But I believe now that has withered away. And today we actually locate this place by saying that, you know, this is the building opposite the police barracks, and that's how you locate the place. Flat number 24 of this building, 4th floor, A block, is where I used to stay. It is also the place where which my grandfather, after migrating from Palakkad some 2 years before the independence of India, he called this place home, right? And he brought along anyone who was ambitious, adventurous, seeking a good life, who was seeking good education specifically, to come to Calcutta, right? And he would extend his full support to these people from his hometown. And he set up a small garments business there. And so my father, my uncles and my aunt were all brought up there. And so my brother and I, we are the second generation to have been brought up in Kolkata, at 7A Gokhale Road. So we have a lot to actually owe to this place. Now, see, much of what we are today is a direct result of the culture that we have been brought up in. It manifests in the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the movies we watch, right, and the books we read. And like everyone, my first point of reference was my parents. Now, my father spent all his life in Kolkata, right, and despite having close ties with his roots in Kerala, he is, I would assume, more Bengali than many Bengalis I know today. On the other end of the spectrum is my mother, who is what I would call a Pakka Keralite, right? And she married very young, and she was, I think, around 20 years old when she came to Kolkata. And much of my childhood, I've been witness to the dynamics of their relationship and the clash of cultures. When my father got married, he hardly knew how to speak in Malayalam properly. And my mother knew no other language other than Malayalam at that point, right? So I picked up the Bengali way of doing things from my dad and clung on to my roots in Kerala due to my mother. However, over the years, I saw my mother, becoming more and more accustomed to this culture. So the manifestations were seen over the years in all the things that we indulged in. And I will give you a few examples. The food on our plate was an amalgamation of these cultures. It was not odd to find an aloo chochori or a aloo posto served with rice and sambar on a plate, and or for that matter a rui macher jhol being served alongside a beans or carrot thoran, right? And while packing a plate of kachoris and jalebis from Sharma's tea stall, right, we would also be mindful of packing a plate of vada and sambar from the Tamilian street food vendor just next to Sharma tea stall, right? And you could see these examples also in the movies we watched. So I got a steady dose of the satirical Malayalam films of the 80s and 90s on Asianet. And while I did that, I did also get a generous dose of the movies of Satyajit Ray, right? And by the way, closely observing my father explaining the subtle nuances of Ray's movies and drawing references to English literature, right, and parallels to Malayalam cinema as well, are some of my fondest memories. But these discussions were not with us, these were with his friends, and I would just be a silent observer. But today I can safely say that these experiences have left an indelible mark on my artistic leanings today. One more significant recollection from my childhood, right, is of the Shakha and Pola. These coral and shell bangles, these beautiful coral and shell bangles, right, have found a way into our family culture, right, and also found a way to into the homes of people who have nothing to do with Bengal, right? All the women in our family today sport this Shakha and Pola, and that is because my mother used to wear Shakha and Pola. So this is it's proof of the fact that how subliminal, how subtle culture can be, right? Now, how all of this has played out with me, let me just explain that to you. So today, now I'm in Bangalore. I've spent 14 years here. However, I keep, once a week or twice a week, I'll be longing for my Kolkata biryani, kathi rolls, begunis, and bhoger khichdi. So whenever I go to a Bengali friend's house, I would ask their wives, to prepare some Bengali dish for me, so that my, that yearning is satiated, right? And the same with movies I watch. So I'm absolutely comfortable on a Friday night watching an ordinary Din Ratri, right? And then on a Sunday, I will be watching Satyanantikad or a Padmarajan film, those Malayalam films steeped in humanistic philosophies, right? And Adda with Bengali friends over a weekend is something that I'm always looking forward to. The good thing is that since Bangalore is such a cosmopolitan city, getting these things is not very difficult. But how can my experiences be, the stories of my experiences be complete without talking about Durga Puja, right? And these were perhaps my favorite memories from my childhood. So my father, usually a very busy man in those days, he was a chartered accountant, and he would travel, right, all across the country. And but on these 4 days, he would be on holiday from Saptami to Dashami, and his office car would be at our disposal, at least in the first half of the day. And what we would do is to take a cutout of from the Telegraph newspaper of all the puja pandals, right? All the far off places from where I stayed, North Kolkata, South Kolkata, and the rest, right? And then embark on this journey to visit all these pandals. So if it were North Kolkata, we would start very early at around like 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. And because my father was not so much of a crowd person, right? So we would do this in the morning. So we would start with Kumartuli or Bagh Bazaar, and then drive all the way back, covering all those North Kolkata pandals, and then we would end at Muhammad Ali Park, which would invariably mean that our lunch would be at Shiraz or at Peeping in Park Street, right? And if it was South Kolkata, we'll start with Egdalia, right, and end at Maddox Square, closer home. And the evenings were restricted to places in our vicinity, right? And on the remaining days, what we would do is to make a list of all those award-winning pandals of yesteryears, so that we don't miss out, right? And so then we would go to pandals like your Lebutala and then Bospukur and all these pandals. And the effort was to actually beat our count of the previous year. So if we had covered like 100 pandals in the previous year, the effort would be to beat that. And the resounding memory there is of the childlike exuberance that my father would exude in these days, which was otherwise absent in him. He was very strict father, right? But on these days, he would be like a child. But another very interesting memory that I have is of the Shidur Khela, and this is on Dashami day, and that is the day my mother would indulge herself in playing this. If you translate it, it's the vermilion game, right? So she would indulge herself playing this with all the Bengali women of our pada, and in return she would be covered in in red, right? And she'd be painted red, and in a way, by doing this, she managed to let go of her inhibitions and merge with the crowd, or should I say that she was actually merging with this culture, right? And so now, in retrospect, right, now when I look back, right, I think it's not just the places but the people I met, my childhood friends, my adda buddies, right, with whom I share so many stories and experiences, who are actually guilty of of making this whole thing so fableish for me, and without whom my experiences of Kolkata would be incomplete, right? So that Shikanji, after a grueling game in a cricket match at Kolkata Maidan, and or that ice candy at school in the summer heat at school, or the the breakfast at 7:45 a.m. at St. Xavier's at Arunda's canteen, right? They wouldn't have tasted so good if it weren't for my friends at Calcutta, my Adda buddies, right, from Bhawanipur, right? It wouldn't have. So a big shout out to all my friends at St. Xavier's and my Adda buddies at Bhawanipur for being part of my story, right? And so these were the little experiences that I wanted to share with you, and I know that these might be something new for the Bengali audience here in this group, but it will resonate with so many Malayalis whom I know are staying in Kolkata and who would have had similar experiences and who call Kolkata their home even today. And I really wanted to actually share these moments with you, and they have actually found a way into my writing as well in very subtle ways, right? So I'm so grateful to PKG today for giving me this opportunity, to tell you my experiences. And so thank you so much for attending this session, and and allowing me to explain why Kolkata is still a part of me. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dhanyavad.